coverage you can count on. This is an Erie News Now election update.
On your left, you see the White House, where we are anticipating a briefing by President Donald Trump in just moments. On your right, a live look at Philadelphia, where we are expecting voting counting to continue on this Thursday evening here as we take a look at the state of this race. Let's take a look right now at the Electoral College map on this Thursday evening. It remains the same as earlier. Right now, Democratic nominee Joe Biden holding a 264 to 214 Electoral College vote lead over President Donald Trump, as the president looking to make up some ground in some critical swing states where he holds a lead. However, right now, that lead does seem to be dwindling as we continue to go in this presidential race. Good evening, everybody. I'm Isaac Petcash. Thanks for being with us here on Erie News Now, election coverage you can count on. I'm sitting at the alert desk right now. Erie News Now just concluded, but our coverage rolls on here on Erie News Now. We are at the alert desk and with you for at least the next little while as we await some results to trickle in from some critical swing states. We're going to be getting to those results in just a second, but I do want to show this double box here as we are looking. It's inside the White House. You see some reporters there gearing up for a press conference that we're expecting very shortly by President Donald Trump. Now, Trump has not spoken since early on Wednesday morning. He did not speak at all during the day yesterday and did not speak during the day today, and so we are awaiting that press conference very shortly. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get you the latest on the presidential race in terms of where we are at right now. We're going to go ahead and give you some results. Let's do that right now. In terms of the popular vote, you take a look at this hour. Joe Biden leading Donald Trump by about 3 million votes, 72 to 69 million. In the all-important Electoral College, it's 264 votes for the former vice president, 214 for the current president of the United States. Moving along, this is the most important state at the hour right now. It is, as we take a look at Pennsylvania, right now it is Donald Trump very slightly ahead of Joe Biden, about a 75,000 vote advantage for the president. It has been shrinking during the day, and it continues to come down here, but the president does still enjoy a 75,000 vote lead in Pennsylvania with about 89% of the vote tallied so far. In Erie County, we take a look. These numbers have actually flipped. We are getting word from Erie County Board of Elections Chairman Carl Anderson that Joe Biden has actually now taken the lead in Erie County. The last check, Trump was ahead by about 500 votes, but we're hearing that it's a 43-vote lead for Joe Biden at this current moment. Let's move on to the other swing states this evening. We start with Alaska, not a swing state, but is yet to have been called. Donald Trump right now having a lead, 118,000 votes to 63,000 for the former vice president. As we move ahead to Arizona, you can see a state that the AP has called, but we are still closely monitoring. Joe Biden right now with 101,475,000 votes compared to Donald Trump's 1,410,000. Moving along to the state of Georgia, this is the closest race of the uncalled states so far. You can see the president's lead just over 9,000 votes over Joe Biden. 98% of the vote is in Georgia. We are still awaiting more states and more votes to come in Georgia right now. In the state of Nevada, you take a look. The voting has stopped for the moment, but it's Joe Biden with the lead. 604,000 votes compared to Donald Trump's 592 votes, about a 12,000 vote cushion where that comparison is concerned. The final big toss-up state of the evening is North Carolina, and right now the president does have a lead in that state. 2,732,000 votes for Donald Trump. Joe Biden slightly behind at 2,655,000. So we continue to monitor these races along with our local races as well. The local races will get you up to speed on as we await this press conference from the president. Take a look at this. In the race for the Attorney General, the last time we reported, it was the Republican Heather Heidelbaugh in the lead. That has flipped. Josh Shapiro, the incumbent Democrat, now has the advantage with 3.1 million votes. 3 million votes for Heidelbaugh. That race, 88% of the way counted. Moving along to the Auditor General race, Timothy DeFore continues to keep his lead. He has 3.2 million votes. The Democratic opponent, Nina Ahmad, has 2.8 million votes tallied so far. We're 88% of the way there as well. We're also 88% of the way in the race for Pennsylvania treasurer, and it is close. Right now, the challenger, Republican Stacey Garrity, holds a lead of 3 percentage points on Democrat incumbent Joe Torsella. You can see the vote margin there, just slightly under 200,000. If you missed our remarks earlier, you can tell that we did call some races in the U.S. House and U.S. Senate in terms of the U.S. House, and State Senate. Glenn Thompson, the incumbent Republican, wins another term in the U.S. House. He defeats Robert Williams, the Democrat, 248,000 to 86,000 votes, 90% reporting there. We were also able to call the race for the U.S. House locally, closer to our area. Incumbent Republican Mike Kelly will take 64% of the vote right now, 36% for Democratic challenger Christy Ganibas. You see the results there, 185 to 106,000 votes as we count it right now. Another call was made in the state Senate, and that was for District 21. Scott Hutchinson will take another term in the state Senate. He takes 77% of the vote against Democratic opponent Shelby Strohmeyer. More good news for Republicans in the state of Pennsylvania. Dan Laughlin holds off challenger Julie Slomski by a final right now of 60 to 40% in the state Senate District 49. Laughlin has 67,000 votes. Right now, 44,000 votes for Julie Slomski. That gap has decreased ever so slightly, but it seems like Laughlin, as we predicted, will maintain control of that seat. We have not been able to predict a result right now in the state house. This is one of the only local races that we have not done so yet, but you can see Ryan Bizzarro, the incumbent Democrat, has a 61 to 39% edge over Greg Hayes, 21,000 votes to just over 13,000 for the Republican challenger. We have not called that race yet. You see in the top right-hand corner, 100% is reporting, but we still are expecting some other votes, some late votes, to come in as well. The final race that we have to give you locally here tonight as we're on the air is the State House District 6. Brad Rowe, the incumbent Republican, defeats Matt Ferentz, his challenger on the Democratic side. The final in that, 18,000 to 7,000 votes, 83% is reporting on that race. And we welcome you back to the Alert Desk here. A lot to get to on this Thursday evening as we continue to look in depth at this presidential race. We again thank you for joining us here on Erie News Now, election coverage you can count on. Here's the latest from what we know right now. At the moment, there have not been any states called yet today, but we are getting close to potentially making some calls in states right now. As we currently see it, the result in Georgia, just 9,400 votes separating the two candidates. Same is true for Nevada. Very close. You see Joe Biden, again, up by about 11,000 votes. Arizona is down to 65,000. And again, Pennsylvania, 75,000 votes. So here's what we know. Right now, what we know is that Donald Trump still does maintain a lead. However, at the same time in Pennsylvania, we have seen Democratic challenger Joe Biden making some strides. And what that means, again, from when we look at our Electoral College map, if the former vice president was to win the state of Pennsylvania here, which is right in this area right here, he would become the next president of the United States. Again, a little bit of a history nugget for you. Only 3 times has a Democratic or Republican challenger ever defeated an incumbent president in the history of the presidency. So we are seeing potentially somewhat historic territory if Joe Biden is able to knock off Trump in the Electoral College. So again, that's where we are right now, and we're going to continue to keep coverage with you right now on ENN Plus and our social media channels. Talking a little bit ago about to Dr. Jeffrey Bloodworth. He works for Gannon University, a professor of elections and a professor of history for elections as well. He's talking to us about the Electoral College, what we can expect through the rest of the evening. We did find out that Bloodworth does expect that the Democratic vote will continue to come in, not willing to call the state yet, but he did say there is good news for Democratic challenger Joe Biden, even though Trump does maintain somewhat of a lead here. We are, again, waiting, as we'll go back to this double box here, we are waiting on an announcement, a press conference from President Donald Trump. If you remember earlier in the day, Joe Biden did come out and have what was considered a news conference. It wasn't really much of a news conference. More so, it was just a statement. The former vice president spoke for about 1.5 to 2 minutes, talked about the concerns over COVID-19. We were told that the former vice president was briefed over the coronavirus today, talked about the concern of the coronavirus, talked about that he still remains confident that he'll be on the path to 270 electoral votes, and also talked a little bit about counting the votes, because that's been the other potential controversy today, has been the Donald Trump lawsuits that have been filed. Donald Trump has filed lawsuits today in the state of Pennsylvania, in the state of Wisconsin, the state of Michigan. We're also hearing word that Nevada could be a state that the Trump campaign has filed lawsuits in as well. Now, there were members of the Trump legal team that held several press conferences today, a couple in Pennsylvania. There also was one held in Nevada, which has been a state that right now is really up in the air as to when the votes will come in. So we are seeing the Trump campaign start to file some legal lawsuits, something that, of course, we have really, at the moment, have not seen come to fruition, but we have, of course, seen that the Trump campaign has made those right now. If we're looking at specific, taking a look at the social media sites right now, just again continuing to keep you up to date as much as we can here on this evening. Social media also weighing in on the U.S. election right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're seeing on social media here today, as we'll go ahead and click on that right here. Take a look again. The update right now from every single news station is just that we're not clear at the moment right now. You take a look at the notification from the Associated Press. Again, Joe Biden fairly close to victory here, as he's on the cusp of 270 electoral votes, but has not done yet. You see here the Senate control still hanging in the balance. We do, at the moment right now, have a virtual tie in the United States Senate, as not a lot of those races have been called yet as we currently speak right now. I'm going to try to get this Senate race up for you so we can take a look at what we are looking at in the Senate. Let's take a look at the United States Senate, shall we? Right now it's the GOP with a 48-47 lead in that category. We still have 5 races that have been uncalled. Those races, as you can see, are in the states of Arizona, the state of, going along here, sorry, I'm just making sure, the state of North Carolina, state of Georgia. There's going to be 2 in Georgia. They'll be both runoffs. So right now it's 48-47 Republican control, but obviously still a lot left to be considered. So the Democrats looking to essentially convert everything this year. They've already maintained control of the House of Representatives. They had the lead going into the night. They maintained the lead coming out of the night. Looking to try to maintain control, or flip the Senate, I should say. But at the moment, they're trailing by 1 seat. And the presidency, of course, big as well. So, again, we continue to take a look at these races. We continue to show you everything that's going on. We're going to keep you as up to date as we possibly can here in this election coverage tonight, and as we know more information, we will, of course, let you know. Again, the big information coming out of Erie County from what we've learned is we've learned that, again, Erie County is now leaning in Joe Biden's favor. We're going to see if we can get this new up-to-date information for you, but we are learning from, Carl Anderson, the leader at the Erie County Board of Elections, that Erie County is leaning now for Joe Biden. So, again, we continue to wait to see what the deal is there. Before we get to the remarks at the White House here, we did get a chance to hear from Carl Anderson a little earlier in the day on the status of the Erie County vote counting. Our Paul Wagner caught up with Carl Anderson just a few hours ago to talk to him and see exactly how things are going. Let's go ahead and show you what he had to say.
Process going today?
Yeah, we feel the process all along has gone exactly as we had set out, exactly as we planned. In fact, we're probably a day ahead of schedule. So we feel really good about where Erie County is at, and just very proud of all of the election staff that work for us and the people in the community that have stepped forward to become our pre-canvassing and canvassing committee dedicated to Erie County, dedicated to the community, and we just really appreciate the work that they've undertaken for us.
Your goal is to get all this mail-in ballot work done by tonight. Optimistic, pessimistic? How do you think?
Yeah, very optimistic, that we'll get it done. We're this morning reported roughly about 4,500 votes. If that trend continues this afternoon in the last count, that should pretty much put us where we need to be.
What will have to be done tomorrow?
Tomorrow, we have to start reporting to the state. Provisional ballots begin being counted and processed after 9 a.m., put into the SURE system. So, all of that will be happening, military ballots.
All right, I do have to cut that interview short here by Carl Anderson. We do appreciate him taking a couple of minutes here, but we are in the double box right now, anxiously awaiting the president's remarks here from the White House. Again, the president has not spoken to the media or the public besides on social media since early on Wednesday morning, so we are moments away from that. The briefing was expected to take place at 6:30. It's nearing 6:46 here, but we are, again, awaiting that remarks by the President of the United States. Again, I want to welcome you in here on Erie News Now. If you're just tuning in, this is election coverage you can count on extended. It's our wall-to-wall election coverage. You might remember on election night, we brought you unedited, unscripted coverage of election night here on Erie News Now, and we're doing the same now, knowing that the presidential race is so close, potentially, to being called tonight. We don't know if it's going to be called tonight, but we do know that there is a significant amount of votes coming in, and we do know that the vote is even closer than it was even yesterday, which was
Thank you very much.
The vote was tightening yesterday as well. Here is the president. Let's take him now.
Good evening. I'd like to provide the American people with an update on our efforts to protect the integrity of our very important 2020 election. If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. If you count the votes that came in late, we're looking at them very strongly, but a lot of votes came in late. I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. To name just a few, we won these and many other victories despite historic election interference from big media, big money, and big tech. As everybody saw, we won by historic numbers. And the pollsters got it knowingly wrong. They got it knowingly wrong. We had polls that were so ridiculous, and everybody knew it at the time. There was no blue wave that they predicted. They thought there was going to be a big blue wave. That was false. It was done for suppression reasons. But instead, there was a big red wave. And it's been properly acknowledged, actually, by the media. They were, I think, very impressed. But that was after the fact. That doesn't do us any good. We kept the Senate despite having twice as many seats to defend as Democrats. And in a really much more competitive states, we did a fantastic job with the Senate. I think we're very proud of what's happened there. We had many more seats to defend. They spent almost $200 million on Senate races in South Carolina and Kentucky alone, 2 races, and hundreds of millions of dollars overall against us. At the national level, our opponents' major donors were Wall Street bankers and special interests. Our major donors were police officers, farmers, everyday citizens. Yet for the first time ever, we lost 0 races in the House. I was talking to Kevin McCarthy today. He said he couldn't believe it. 0 races. Very unusual thing, 0. And actually won many new seats with, I think, many more on the way. This was also the year of the Republican woman. More Republican women were elected to Congress than ever before. That's a great achievement. I won the largest share of non-white voters of any Republican in 60 years, including historic numbers of Latino, African American, Asian American, and Native American voters, the largest ever in our history. We grew our party by 4 million voters, the greatest turnout in Republican Party history. Democrats are the party of the big donors, the big media, the big tech. it seems, and Republicans have become the party of the American worker, and that's what's happened. And we're also, I believe, the party of inclusion. As everyone now recognizes, media polling was election interference in the truest sense of that word by powerful special interests. These really phony polls, I have to call them phony polls, fake polls, were designed to keep our voters at home, create the illusion of momentum for Mr. Biden, and diminish Republicans' ability to raise funds. They were what's called suppression polls. Everyone knows that now. And it's never been used to the extent that it's been used on this last election. To highlight just a few examples, the day before election, Quinnipiac, which was wrong on every occasion that I know of, had Joe Biden up by 5 points in Florida, and they were off by 8.4 points, and I won Florida easily. So they had me losing Florida by a lot, and I ended up winning Florida by a lot. Other than that, they were very accurate. They had him up 4 points in Ohio, and they were up by 12.2 points. And I also won Ohio, great state of Ohio, very easily. The Washington Post said Biden up 17 points in Wisconsin, and it was basically even. They were off by about 17 points. And they knew that. They're not stupid people. They knew that. Suppression. There are now only a few states yet to be decided in the presidential race. The voting apparatus of those states are run in all cases by Democrats. We were winning in all the key locations by a lot, actually. And then our numbers started miraculously getting whittled away in secret. And they wouldn't allow legally permissible observers. We went to court in a couple of instances, and we were able to get the observers put in. And when the observers got there, they wanted them 60, 70 feet away, 80 feet, 100 feet away, or outside the building to observe people inside the building. And we won a case, a big case, and we have others happening. There are lots of litigation, even beyond our litigation. There's tremendous amount of litigation generally because of how unfair this process was. And I predicted that. I've been talking about mail-in voting for a long time. It's really destroyed our system. It's a corrupt system. And it makes people corrupt even if they aren't by nature. But they become corrupt. It's too easy. They want to find out how many votes they need, and then they seem to be able to find them. They wait, and then they find them. And you see that on election night. We were ahead in vote in North Carolina by a lot, tremendous number of votes. And we're still ahead by a lot, but not as many, because they're finding ballots all of a sudden. Oh, we have some mail-in ballots. It's amazing how those mail-in ballots are so one-sided, too. I know that it's supposed to be to the advantage of the Democrats, but in all cases, they're so one-sided. We were up by nearly 700,000 votes in Pennsylvania. I won Pennsylvania by a lot, and that gets whittled down to, I think they said now we're up by 90,000 votes, and they'll keep coming and coming and coming. They find them all over, and they don't want us to have any observers, although we won a court case. The judge said you have to have observers. Likewise in Georgia, and they're appealing. Actually, they're appealing. We won a case that we want people to watch, and we want observers, and they're actually appealing, which is sort of interesting. I wonder why they'd appeal, that all we want to do is have people watch as they do the vote tabulations. Likewise in Georgia, I won by a lot, with a lead of over getting close to 300,000 votes on election night in Georgia. And by the way, got whittled down, and now it's getting to be to a point where I'll go from winning by a lot to perhaps being even down a little bit. In Georgia, a pipe burst in a faraway location, totally unrelated to the location of what was happening, and they stopped counting for 4 hours, and a lot of things happened. The election apparatus in Georgia is run by Democrats. We also had margins of 300,000 in Michigan. We're way up in Michigan, won the state. And in Wisconsin, we did likewise fantastically well. And that got whittled down. In every case, they got whittled down. Today, we're on track to win Arizona. We only need to carry, I guess, 55% of the remaining vote, 55% margins, and that's a margin that we've significantly exceeded. So we'll see what happens with that, but we're on track to do okay in Arizona. Our goal is to defend the integrity of the election. We'll not allow the corruption to steal such an important election, or any election for that matter. And we can't allow anybody to silence our voters and manufacture results. I've been doing a lot of public things for a long time. I've never had anything that's been as inspirational, by people calling, talking, sending things to us. I've never seen such love and such affection and such spirit as I've seen for this. People know what's happening, and they see what's happening, and it's before their eyes. And there are many instances which will be reported very shortly. There's tremendous litigation going on, and this is a case where they're trying to steal an election. They're trying to rig an election, and we can't let that happen. Detroit and Philadelphia, known as two of the most corrupt political places anywhere in our country, easily cannot be responsible for engineering the outcome of a presidential race, a very important presidential race. In Pennsylvania, Democrats have gone to the state Supreme Court to try and ban our election observers, and very strongly. Now, we won the case, but they're going forward. They don't want anybody in there. They don't want anybody watching them as they count the ballots. And I can't imagine why. There's absolutely no legitimate reason why they would not want to have people watching this process, because if it's straight, they should be proud of it. Instead, they're trying, obviously, to commit fraud. There's no question about that. In Philadelphia, observers have been kept far away, very far away, so far that people are using binoculars to try and see, and there's been tremendous problems caused. They put paper on all of the windows so you can't see in, and the people that are banned are very unhappy and become somewhat violent. The 11th Circuit ruled that in Georgia the votes have been in by Election Day, that they should be in by Election Day, and they weren't. Votes are coming in after Election Day. And they had a ruling already that you have to have the votes in by Election Day. To the best of my knowledge, votes should be in by Election Day. And they didn't do that. Democrat officials never believed they could win this election honestly. I really believe that. That's why they did the mail-in ballots, where there's tremendous corruption and fraud going on. That's why they mailed out tens of millions of unsolicited ballots without any verification measures whatsoever. And I've told everybody that these things would happen, because I've seen it happen. I watched a lot of different elections before they decided to go with this big, massive election with tens of millions of ballots going out to everybody, in many cases totally unsolicited. This was unprecedented in American history. This was by design, despite years of claiming to care about the election security. They refused to include any requirement to verify signatures, identities, or even determine whether they're eligible or ineligible to vote. People are walking in there. They have no idea. They're just taking numbers. They're writing down things, the workers, and doing a lot of bad things. And we have a lot of information coming and litigation that you'll see that will shake even you people up. And you've seen it all. The officials overseeing the counting in Pennsylvania and other key states are all part of a corrupt Democrat machine that you've written about. And for a long time, you've been writing about the corrupt Democrat machine. I went to school there, and I know a lot about it. It hasn't changed. It's a long time ago, and hasn't changed. It's gotten worse. In Pennsylvania, partisan Democrats have allowed ballots in the state to be received 3 days after the election. And we think much more than that. And they're counting those without even postmarks or any identification whatsoever. So you don't have postmarks, you don't have identification. There have been a number of disturbing irregularities across the nation. Our campaign has been denied access to observe any counting in Detroit. Detroit is another place, and I wouldn't say has the best reputation for election integrity. Poll workers in Michigan were duplicating ballots, but when our observers attempted to challenge the activity, those poll workers jumped in front of the volunteers to block their view so that they couldn't see what they were doing. And it became a little bit dangerous. One major hub for counting ballots in Detroit covered up the windows again with large pieces of cardboard, and so they wanted to protect and block the counting area. They didn't want anybody seeing the counting, even though these were observers who were legal observers that were supposed to be there. In Detroit, there were hours of unexplained delay in delivering many of the votes for counting. The final batch did not arrive until 4 in the morning, and even though the polls closed at 8 o'clock, so they brought it in, and the batches came in, and nobody knew where they came from. We've also been denied access to observe in critical places in Georgia. In multiple swing states, counting was halted for hours and hours on election night, with results withheld from major Democrat-run locations only to appear later. And they suddenly appeared, and they all had the name Biden on them, or just about all. I think almost all. They all had the name Biden on them, which is a little strange. I challenge Joe and every Democrat to clarify that they only want legal votes, because they talk about votes, and I think they should use the word legal votes. We want every legal vote counted, and I want every legal vote counted. We want openness and transparency, no secret count rooms, no mystery ballots, no illegal votes being cast after Election Day. You have Election Day, and the laws are very strong on that. You have an Election Day, and they don't want votes cast after Election Day, and they want the process to be an honest one. It's so important. We want an honest election, and we want an honest count, and we want honest people working back there, because it's a very important job. So that's the way this country is going to win. That's the way the United States will win, and we think we will win the election very easily. We think there's going to be a lot of litigation because we have so much evidence, so much proof, and it's going to end up perhaps at the highest court in the land. We'll see. But we think there'll be a lot of litigation because we can't have an election stolen like this. And I tell you, I have been talking about this for many months with all of you, and I've said very strongly that mail-in ballots are going to end up being a disaster. Small elections were a disaster. Small, very easy-to-handle elections were disastrous. This is a large-scale version, and it's getting worse and worse every day. We're hearing stories that are horror stories, absolute horror stories. And we can't let that happen to the United States of America. It's not a question of who wins, Republican, Democrat, Joe, myself. We can't let that happen to our country. We can't be disgraced by having something like this happen. So it will be hopefully cleared up, maybe soon, I hope soon, but it'll probably go through a process, a legal process. And as you know, I've claimed certain states, and he's claiming states, and we can both claim the states, but ultimately I have a feeling judges are going to have to rule. But there's been a lot of shenanigans, and we can't stand for that in our country. Thank you very much.
Break this down here, these 4 states. Here's what we're looking at: Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. Those are the ones we are waiting on right now as the vote trickles in at a painfully slow pace. Let's go through these very quickly. Over here in Nevada, we have about 75% of the vote in. We won't know more until at least the weekend. Officials tell us they're waiting on Clark County, where Las Vegas is. Over here in Georgia, we have about 99% of the vote in. We're waiting on about 48,000 votes or so. The president leads by 12,000 votes. That race really tightening up. That state could flip. Keep an eye on Georgia. Right now, North Carolina, we have about 95% of the vote in, but we're waiting on mail-in ballots. If they're in, but were postmarked by Election Day, and they come in by November 12th, they'll count. So it's just a matter of how many of the 116,000 that were out will end up coming back. The president has the lead there as well. Pennsylvania, right now, the president still has the lead, but it is really tightening. As Elspeth just said, he flipped Erie County. Could he flip those other counties? Emily, where we're looking at right here, right around Philadelphia and the surrounding counties, those are largely Democratic counties, and are there enough mail-in ballots right through there to end up flipping that state for Joe Biden? Or does Pennsylvania stay blue, or stay red rather, and set us up for a showdown in Nevada? Only time will tell. It's a waiting game. We've through 3 days. What's another couple at this point, right? Emily, back to you.
All right, that was Ethan Kibbe. We joined Erie News Now at 7 in progress, and we do have now some new information to get to you here on this election day. It comes out of the state of Georgia. Take a look at this. The race tightening even further. Last check, the president was up by about 9,000 votes over Joe Biden. Look at the race now. Donald Trump's lead against Joe Biden, just about 3,500 votes right now. You see the president up 2.445 million votes. Joe Biden at 2,441,000 electoral, or not rather, total votes in the state of Georgia. So right now the president maintaining a lead, but it is ever so slight with about 90%, 98% of the vote counted. If Joe Biden were to win the state of Georgia, knowing what we know now here on the Electoral College map, it would mean that Biden would become the president. Again, the Associated Press has called at the moment the state of Arizona for Joe Biden. So again, right now, you take a look at exactly where this Electoral College map stands. We'll show it to you right now. Joe Biden at 264. If he is able to flip Georgia to the blue, he would be the president of the United States. He would win the election. So again, we're continuing to follow this here live on our news channels right now. Again, just so much more coming in at the moment. But we do want to get an update as we currently speak. We do want to kind of chat a little bit about so as I turn my feed here, we do want to get some information to you just about recapping that press conference. So the president claiming in that presser, did not take any questions, claiming that he is being cheated out of the election. He believes there was voter fraud all over. He did list some things that he believed contributed to voter fraud. Again, we want to make it perfectly clear. As of right now, there is no indication, no evidence that there is voter fraud happening anywhere in the United States of America. This election, from what many officials have said, has been clean. It's been fairly smooth and swift. Again, the votes are taking some time to be counted, but that's because, number one, of the overwhelming majority and increase in votes from 2016. But then number two, just solely because of the fact that, well, there's more mail-in ballots this year, a record-setting number of mail-in ballots, and that's certainly part of the reason as to why we're seeing an increased number, not just increased number of votes, of votes, but increased wait time for those votes to be tallied. Speaking of votes, we're going to go ahead and take it out of Philadelphia. These workers have been here for, well, the last 48 hours. They've been counting votes in Philadelphia County. And again, you see these votes just continuing to come in. You're seeing right now that the race is tightening, especially in Georgia, where we have just 3,500 votes separating the two candidates. And again, more information coming in terms of where the race stands right now with the other numbers as well, as we take a look at the latest numbers here from the state of both Georgia and the other swing states as well. Let's go ahead and update you on the latest numbers. It is 7:09 on the East Coast. We, of course, are bringing you numbers extravaganza. There are so many that we're talking about right now, but because of the nature of this race, we want to bring them to you as quickly and efficiently as possible. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Here's the latest on the numbers. You see the popular vote remaining somewhat the same. Joe Biden up 72 million to 69 million votes on the current president, Donald Trump. And that was to be expected. We expected that the former vice president would win the popular vote. Some polls had him up as much as 7 to 10 points in the popular vote, but right now it seems as if that's a little bit skewed. Right now it's a 2-point lead for the former vice president. The Electoral College, we want to remind you, remains the same. 264 electoral votes for Joe Biden, 214 for Donald Trump. Taking a look at the state of Pennsylvania, here are the numbers as of just moments ago. We're going to play that for you right now. There it is. State of Pennsylvania, Donald Trump's lead, as you can see, has grown even more thin. Last we checked, it was a 75,000 vote lead. It looks as now the lead is down to 65,000 votes, with about 92 to 93% reporting in the state of Pennsylvania. So that lead is diminishing for Donald Trump. Another lead diminishing for the president is the state of Georgia. Like we said, that margin unbelievably thin. It's a 3,500 vote margin, 98.5% reporting in the state of Georgia. That is how close things are right now as we just continue to take a look at all of these races. We have more numbers coming in right now in the state of Nevada. Take a look at this. The president currently trailing in Nevada. It's Joe Biden with a 12,000 vote lead there. North Carolina looking good for Donald Trump. He does hold an 80,000 vote lead in North Carolina. We also want to update you on the local races as well. We are getting new numbers in right now. I'm actually going to give you an idea of what I'm looking at on my screen. So as you can see, this is where we find out where the new data is right now. So anything that's red, we can see that the data is new and the data is fresh, hot off the press. So let's go to that right now. We'll start in the Pennsylvania Attorney General race. All three of these races that we're looking at right now have not been called. But take a look at this. Josh Shapiro, the incumbent Democrat, he spent many days talking to media outlets, talking about the vote in Pennsylvania. Right now he has a lead of about 150,000 votes over Heather Heidelbaugh, the Republican. Moving on, we go to the Auditor General race. Timothy DeFore. He's had an impressive lead the last couple of hours. His lead continues to increase. Right now, a 6-point advantage over Anita Ahmad, the Democrat. His lead just under 380,000 votes in that race. The PA Treasurer's race also remains close as well. Stacey Garrity trying to pick off John Torsella, the incumbent Democrat, trying to take that seat away from Torsella. She does own a lead of just about 180,000 votes as we see it right now over the incumbent Democrat Torsella. We're also getting some new numbers over a race we have not called yet. That's the race for State House District 3. Ryan Bizzarro versus Greg Hayes. It's Bizzarro with the lead right now. You see it's about an 8,000 vote gap. Bizzarro at 21,832 votes. Hayes at 13,751. So those are the local races that we're keeping an eye on right now. Again, numbers coming in as we currently speak. They are updating literally by the minute. So I apologize if I end up refreshing my computer here several times and giving you the numbers. But again, as the numbers come in, we want you to know. We want you to be as best informed as possible because we know how, quote-unquote, slowly the information has been trickling in the presidential race, even though for the most part it's been going fairly quickly compared to what other people believed. We also just want to give you information as much as we can on the presidential race as well. Again, we're looking right now at the Electoral College map. We're going to show it to you one more time. So there you see it. Joe Biden at 264, Donald Trump at 114. So right now, if this map is consistent, again, the Associated Press is the one contributing to this map here. Joe Biden just needing any state left on the board besides Alaska, just 3 electoral votes there. So Nevada, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia would make him the 46th president of the United States. We were talking a little bit earlier, if you didn't hear us or tune in a little bit earlier, and we were talking with Jeff Bloodworth. He's a professor at Gannon University, an economic and political expert. And one of the things he was saying is talking about the state of Arizona. Let's go back to it now. State of Arizona has been called by the AP, but Jeff Bloodworth was talking to us a little bit earlier and said that it's not out of the question that that state might get pulled back into the too close to call category. There are several networks that have not yet called Arizona. Again, we did get a call in terms of where we were at in the state of Arizona a while ago. I'm sorry, I'm just right now looking at some things on social media. Okay, just getting some information from Twitter and other news networks right now. Arizona's 11 electoral votes. So as we go back to Arizona, as you can see on this map, if Arizona does get put back in the too close to call category, that would put Joe Biden back down to 253, which means that he would need the state of Pennsylvania to officially go over the hump of 270 electoral votes. So We are keeping an eye on the state of Arizona. Again, the AP has called it, so we are putting it in the Democratic column. But we do know that there is still a lot of outstanding vote left to go, so we are not necessarily ruling out a potential change in Arizona, but we haven't seen anything like that right yet in terms of how things have been going in the state of Arizona. All right, before we got to the press conference with President Donald Trump, we were talking to Carl Anderson, who's the Board of Elections chief for Erie County. We are going to give you the rest of that interview in just a little bit, but I also want to give you an opportunity to hear how we've been talking to other political figures as well. I'm going to play a couple of interviews for you. The first is from Jim Wirtz. He's the Democratic chair of Erie County. Our Elspeth Meisner caught up with him just a short while ago to talk about where he thinks the race stands and his confidence for the Democratic Party in national and local races. Let's hear from Jim Wirtz here as we continue our coverage on Erie News Now.
You know, it's been a different election cycle, and we watched those in-person results come in last night, and would have liked to see slimmer margins on those, but we knew there were a lot of mail ballots in the tank, and there were a lot of Democratic mail ballots in the tank, and those numbers are starting to come out, and it looks pretty good for Democrats here in Erie County, up and down the ballot.
Perfect. Now, obviously, we're still waiting on a lot of those mail-in ballots, but from what we've been seeing, some of the races look really close, especially for some of those local races. Your thoughts on them so far? Well,
look, I think after the mail ballots are counted, the margins on the Slomski race are going to be much more narrow. I think the Bizarro race is going to be totally fine and as expected. It's going to break down about 60-40 along party lines, and I think that we can be pretty happy with Democratic results here in Erie County. At the end of the day, it looks like we will probably have Democratic victories in every single race except for that state Senate seat. So while we would have liked to have them all, the power of incumbency is a really difficult thing to overcome sometimes, and I think that's part of what happened in that 49th district seat.
Absolutely. Tell me where you think we go from here. Obviously, we've some data, taking all the results and everything, but now, the battle starts again for that next election. Sure. Your message on where we can go from here?
Sure. Well, I think we're going to continue to party build throughout Erie County and try to communicate with folks who maybe weren't necessarily with us this time, but see if we can bring them back in the fold. And next year, the municipal elections are perhaps even more important than some of the races we were looking at this year. So I think when we think about 2021, there's some really important things happening there, and so we're going to work to make sure that we support our candidates in every way possible and have a successful municipal year as well.
In your thoughts, what are some things that worked well for this past election cycle, and what things could we do better when it comes to campaigning, getting our message out for the next campaign?
Well, listen, we left nothing on the table this cycle, and we reached out to constituents throughout Erie County. Those field offices that we had in Northeast and Union City and Mill Creek Township, I think, were really effective for us in terms of being able to reach people in those communities and allow them to interact with the party and show their support for Joe Biden and our other candidates on the ballot.
And tell me, in one word or one phrase, your thoughts right now about where we're standing with a lot of the...
All right, that was Democratic Chairman Jim Wirtz. As we were on that interview, we did get some updates from the state of Arizona. Take a look at this. You see the former vice president's lead in Arizona has dwindled. It's now down to about 61,000 votes, the lead. Again, we have called Arizona for Joe Biden. We are keeping an eye on that state because we know that it is continuing to stay close. I do want to make a quick announcement here. I've been getting some messages from some people who are watching our stream, and we thank you all for watching here on our election coverage. We know this is an important election for all of you, so that's why we're bringing you wall-to-wall coverage of this 2020 election day continued. Some people are asking why we have Joe Biden with 264 electoral votes. There are certainly some networks right now that have Joe Biden at 253 electoral votes. And they're asking, why do we have Biden at 264? Here's the reason why. I just want to be perfectly clear on this so we can clear up any confusion here. Right now, we have called Joe Biden. The AP, which is where we get the data from, has called Arizona for Joe Biden. That's 11 electoral votes. Many of the other networks have not done so. Again, we are going based off of what the AP has called, so we are putting Arizona in Joe Biden's category. Some of the other networks, in fact, several of the other major networks have not called Arizona for Biden, which means he's at 253 electoral votes. So that is where the 11-vote difference comes into play. Again, we are continuing to monitor Arizona in case it does get put back at some point into the too close to call category. But again, we are right now calling Arizona, as we did yesterday for Joe Biden. That's the reason as to why we are not at the moment really in the same electoral vote category as some of the other major networks. So just want to clear that up right now for anyone who might be confused as to why it's different on our end right now. We do also want to give you an opportunity here to hear from State Senator Dan Laughlin. Our Elspeth Meisner, yet again, was out and about talking to Senator Laughlin after he won re-election. We reported last night over Julie Slomski. Let's hear from Republican Dan Laughlin.
Your first thoughts after a very long election process, a long campaigning process, and here we're the day after the election. Your main thoughts?
Well, sure, Elspeth. This has been a long, grueling campaign for both sides, and I know that I'm glad that it's behind us now. And, we can, now that the campaign is over and it's been decided who's going to be senator, I can look forward now to 4 years of trying to do, my best to represent this county.
I know one thing that a lot of people like about you is because you're so relatable. You're like the average, father, average husband, average, worker and everything. Why are so many people drawn to that, and why is that so important for people to trust you with this job?
Well, I will say this. I've spent my life working in the construction industry, and before that I was a union steel worker. And I think that I truly represent the blue-collar people in this county, and I think that resonates with them. And, I know a lot of other senators, they're good people, but they didn't come from this background. So I bring a perspective to the Senate that I think was much needed.
I know earlier today I was speaking with Jim Wertz of the Democratic Party and just hearing his thoughts for the election and everything, and he was still very optimistic about some of the races, local races, as well as some of the larger races. Right. Your thoughts on it based on the polls that you've been seeing so far?
Well, I think one of the local races that is very tight right now that I'm a little surprised about is the Bizarro-Hayes race. We'll see where that shakes out. I want to know, everybody that's watching this newscast, that I think we should count every single vote, and I know that Doug Smith is going to do that. And I'm looking forward to seeing the actual final results. I mean, my race was a wide enough span that we were able to call it today, but we still want every vote counted.
Mm-hmm. And now, any message you have to say? I know you put out a statement earlier, but a message you have to say to your supporters, the people who worked the long campaigns, but even the people who casted their votes for you?
Well, first off, I'd like to thank everybody that voted, whether they voted for me or not. That's part of the process, trying to win the support of people and get them to vote for you. That's obviously what the campaign season is about, if you will. But we had a good team of volunteers. We had some paid staff. Some grassroots folks, and I think that overall our message obviously resonated a little bit better with the voters than the other side did.
Tell me your plan for the your next term here in office. Things you want to see, things you want to get accomplished, and things you want to bring to the table as we get into a new election.
Well, sure. Obviously, economic development was a big thing on my list to do after. After we dealt with the Erie School District issues. I'm gonna continue that. I think that's one of the things that is most needed in Erie County. We lost a lot of manufacturing jobs back in the, about 20 years ago when NAFTA went through. And I'm starting to see a resurgence with the opportunity zones that we were able to get. And, that's gonna be one of the focus that I'm gonna focus on, rather. And also the Paid Family Care Act. We didn't get that done this year, but I think that's very important, and the pandemic really highlighted why we need that. So those are just two of the things off the top of the list. There's many other things that'll come up that we're going to work on.
After a very long campaign process, a long election night, we still are counting those votes and everything. One word to describe how you're feeling right now.
Relieved. I think everybody is.
And that was State Senator Dan Laughlin. You can certainly see the relief on his face. That just goes to show how stressful an election can be, especially for an official who has tried to win re-election and has won re-election, according to our numbers. Dan Laughlin, the victor when it comes to his race in District 49. Let's go ahead and give you an idea of what that is right now. Oh, the wrong picture here. That's what happens when you have live TV. There we go. There is the results that we have right now. You can see Dan Laughlin defeating Democratic challenger Julie Slomski by right now a 20-point margin, 60% to 40% right now, 68,000 votes to about 45,000 votes here as we see it right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at just a couple of voting locations here. We're going to go ahead and just do this right now. Give me one moment. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that I have the correct live signals up, and then we're going to go ahead and put these signals in a double box. So here's what we're looking at right now. This is a live ballot counting extravaganza as we see it. On the left-hand side is Arizona. Right now, Arizona counting ballots. We saw the lead for Vice President Biden shrink just slightly in the last round of voting. We do expect more results to come in from Arizona tonight. On the right-hand side, as we've been showing you, is Philadelphia. This is where many of the ballots are being counted and officially brought in to be basically shown to the public so that the public can get the results and the information. Again, Pennsylvania right now at the moment is still in the Trump category, but it is dwindling. That lead very tedious at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can update the numbers here on our live stream. We do want to, of course, give you all that information. And about 7:30, we're going to go ahead and back and show you the numbers right now. But again, Arizona and Pennsylvania continuing to count ballots on this Thursday evening. And it's just a continuous election cycle and a continuous presidential election that hangs in the balance right now. I want to give you the current totals of where we're at in terms of who leads what state. Again, right now in Georgia, it's Donald Trump ahead by about 3,500 votes. Nevada, Biden leads by 11,000. It's a 61,000 vote lead in Arizona for the former vice president. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump leading by 64,000 total votes. We heard the president speak just a few moments ago, again, claiming that there was voter fraud, claiming that there was other things as well that interfere with the election. Again, we do want to report that we have no evidence of that, especially on our end from Erie News Now. But we do, of course, continue to keep you up to date on all of those races. Race is so close right now in Georgia. Race is so close in Pennsylvania. We'll go ahead and give you that Electoral College map one more time. This is where the Electoral College map was yesterday. The last state that was called, especially by the AP, was Michigan. Michigan was called yesterday at about 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon. Since then, it's been about 27 hours. We've gotten no state calls. And you understand why several of the networks and the news outlets, including ourselves, are hesitant to make any calls, because at this point, the next state call, depending on who it goes for, could determine the presidency. So right now, we're just looking and continuing to wait and make sure that all those results are in, all the votes are counted in each of the states, and we continue to hear from both the campaigns as to how things are going right now. So again, just looking at social media right now, any other updates. I'm pulling up right now as we continue our live coverage on Erie News Now. Thank you for, again, staying with us here on this Thursday evening. We know how important the election is to so many people here this evening and this year. It's such a contested election, as we've been talking, so we want to give you the very latest. I want to just go ahead and kind of give you an idea of what has been transpiring here in the last couple of hours on Twitter between the two presidential candidates. So we'll start with the president here. You can see his last tweet was the news conference at 6:30 p.m. He then, in the last couple of hours, tweeting again about Stop the Fraud. You can see here 8 hours ago, quoting, all of the recent Biden claims states will be legally challenged by us for voter fraud and state election fraud. And you can see as well that there is some more tweets as well. Again, Stop the Count, legal win in Pennsylvania. You see from the Democratic challenger, last couple of tweets here, the people will not be silenced, bullied, or surrender. Every vote must be counted. This is from the earlier conference that the vice president had on COVID-19 and the election. Again, the former vice president remaining confident that he is on a path to 270 electoral votes, as he has right now 264. So two messages by the vice president and president today. You see 2 hours ago I asked people to stay calm. Process is working. The count is being completed. So interestingly enough, both the candidates actually held press conferences today. It wasn't the case on Wednesday. Yesterday, it was just Joe Biden who held a fairly brief news conference. Again, these candidates taking no questions from the media. This is more of a, let me just explain myself and then I'm going to leave sort of a news conference. But Biden and Trump both holding news conferences today. It's the first time we've heard Trump speak since early on Wednesday morning. And again, both candidates expressing their very much their optimism, if you will, as we currently see right now, the optimism of getting to 270 electoral votes. Clearly, we continue to see, as we see it here on our news channel, we see the paths narrowing for one candidate and continuing to climb right now for another. But again, going back to the Electoral College map, we can't stress it enough. Right now, 264 to 214, Biden in the lead as we currently speak here on this Thursday. Also, we're following the lawsuits that have been filed by the current president, Donald Trump. We know that he has filed lawsuits in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, those Rust Belt states that we talked so much about. We talked about the fact that the Rust Belt was critical to win the election, the Sun Belt was critical to win the election, and the West was critical to win the election. We're seeing right now that it's a split. You see Donald Trump is winning the Sun Belt as of now. He's already projected to win Florida. And North Carolina looks like he'll carry the state from what we're seeing in our specific exit polls. And we're also seeing that he has the lead in Georgia, though that is close. So right now, the Sun Belt, for the moment, being won by the president, the Georgia, Florida, North Carolina. The Rust Belt, though, is a different story. Donald Trump carried the states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania in 2016. And so because of that, he was able to get over 300 electoral votes, and so the map is changing right now. I'm going to go ahead and give you another camera here. I'm going to get something from Doug Rogers. He's our social media and technology extraordinaire, letting me know right now that Georgia's down to about 3,500 votes. It is close, Doug, and we're going to see if we can get those races up for you. You can see the race in Georgia. Yep, it just updated. So the presidency in Georgia is close. Let's go ahead and go to it right now. I'm going to go ahead and get this up on our data tracker, and here it is. The race in Georgia is getting ever so close. You can see Donald Trump's lead now at about 3,500 votes, 2,446,850. Joe Biden at 2,443,364. So, folks, it's not unlikely that a recount could be triggered in the state of Georgia. There's no guarantee. It's not a foregone conclusion that this could be the case. So, again, we are just continuing to see the results come in, and we're continuing to see right now that the lead for Donald Trump dwindling in the state of Georgia, state of Pennsylvania as well. Trump right now leading by about 65,000 votes. So that lead is also tenuous, but it is still a lead for Donald Trump. He still has the advantage. You see Trump is closing in the state of Arizona right now. It's about a 61,000 vote lead for the current president of the United States. We're staying with you here on Erie News Now, our live election coverage you can count on. I want to show you right now a map of 2016 compared to a map of 2020. We've been talking about, will things change? Will things stay the same? Let's go ahead and look at how the map looked like in 2016. So you can see in 2016, I'm getting it wrong here. Donald Trump had 306 electoral votes, and that was largely in part because of this Rust Belt area. I'm circling it right now with my mouse here. You see the president won the states of Pennsylvania, he won Michigan, and he won Wisconsin. He won all three of those states. That was critical for him to get to 306 because, again, Michigan, Wisconsin, a total of 26 electoral votes, Pennsylvania 20. You take away 46 electoral votes from the president, that puts him at 260. And that would have given Hillary Clinton the win had she been able to hold this quote-unquote blue wall that the Democrats, for the most part during elections, believe that they need to or think that they can hold. You go down to the Sun Belt here, you see the president won North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Looks like the president's on track to win at least two of those states. We just gave you the numbers from Georgia. It's very close, razor-thin margins right now, so obviously we aren't completely sure whether or not he'll hold Georgia, but he won the Sun Belt, and he was able to at least pick up one of two in the West. So you can see by this map, Trump was able to take Arizona. He did not win Nevada, but he did take those 11 votes in Arizona. So if you look at these three areas, he dominated the Rust Belt, dominated the Sun Belt, and was able to pick up Arizona. Here's how it looks in 2020. You take a look at this map right now, and you're seeing a different trend. You see right now that Joe Biden has taken Arizona. Biden's ahead in Nevada, so that trend is changing in the western portion of the U.S. Take a look at the southern portion. It's still Trump for the most part. You can see, again, the Sun Belt leaning Trump at the moment, but the state of Georgia, if Joe Biden's able to take that state, would be ever critical to be able to picking up more votes and picking off a state in the South. Here's the area where things have been different in 2020. It's the Rust Belt. You can see Donald Trump still carried the state of Ohio, but wins in Wisconsin, wins in Michigan for the former vice president, and potential comeback in Pennsylvania could really change the map. And again, what we're seeing is Joe Biden needing all of those states to be able to win the presidency, but he's doing something that Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee in 2016, was not able to do. And again, that was win the states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and potentially Pennsylvania. But of course, Biden also picking up Arizona as well. So you can see the difference in the map of 2016, the map of 2020. If you can see, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and fill it in like it is in 2020 right now. So this is where it was in 2016. You see the states flipping. 1 state, 2 state, 3 state, all flipping. Nevada has not been called. Georgia has not been called. North Carolina and Pennsylvania have not been called. So again, we're just continuing to see at the moment a shift in where those key battleground states are and who's winning those key battleground states right now. So again, we continue to be, at the moment, waiting on a lot of votes coming in Pennsylvania, some votes coming in still in Georgia. And, of course, as we continue on in our election coverage, we want to make sure we get you all of the latest news and information when it comes to this area. We are learning right now, we're getting from some critical areas, that at the moment, it looks like there are about 10,000 votes that came in for Joe Biden in Philadelphia County to about 1,400 for Donald Trump in the last batch of voting. So that's why the gap closed from 75,000 to 65,000 for Donald Trump. Right now, 89% of the vote is in Philadelphia County. So we're going to see if we can take you to that right now to give you an idea of what's going on. Yeah, let's do that right now, shall we? This is a county-by-county breakdown of who is winning what area. So you can see Erie County has flipped to Joe Biden, and we've reported that in the last half hour or so. Joe Biden with the lead in Erie County. So Erie is now, at the moment, Democratic, although there is still some vote, slight vote, but some vote to come in Erie. I'm going to zoom in to the counties down low here. You see Philadelphia County. Right now, we have it at 85% still reporting. So there is still some vote in Philadelphia County. You move to the counties outside of Philadelphia, Delaware County, there is still some vote left to come in. Bucks County, right now, Joe Biden with the lead in that county. There's about 10% left to come in. Montgomery County, still some vote, but not a lot. Chester County does have a little bit of vote as well, and as you move forward here, Lehigh County still has some vote left to go. So the question becomes, and I'm doing my best Ethan Kibbe here, so forgive me, I'm not as fluent as he is in this data breakdown, but is there some vote left for Donald Trump? Well, if you go to some of the counties here that are still reporting. In some of the bigger counties, if you will. The one county you want to look for is Cumberland County. There's still 15% of the vote left out in Cumberland County. Donald Trump does have a big lead there. We do anticipate some more Trump votes to come from Cumberland County, which is good for him, right near Harrisburg. But will it be enough? That's the question. York County, you see 75% in, Trump leading there. And it's just a matter of how many votes are left to be counted. So you see Trump in that area, 143 to 85,000 votes. Quick math, 25% left to go. About 35,000 votes cast. So when you do the math, 25% left to go in there. Donald Trump might pick up a couple thousand votes more in York County. Let's look and see if there are other counties as well. Berks County, for the moment, reporting for the most part. So we're just, right now what we're doing is we're just going around to these rural counties to see if there are any votes outstanding for the president right now. Bradford County, you take a look, still with 18% of the vote left to go, but again, at the moment, it's not a big county. So even though if Trump would get some votes, it's unlikely he'd pick up enough to make a significant impact. Moving along, Clearfield County, Jefferson County, all at 100%. A couple of other counties as well are somewhat still with some votes left to be counted. Here's a big one for Trump that still has a lot of votes left, is Butler County. Butler County has about 23% of the vote left to be counted. You can see Trump's lead there, 73 to 36,000 votes. So you would think, if the data reports correctly, that Trump will gain some votes in Butler County and votes in Cumberland County, if I can circle it here. So hope is not lost for Donald Trump in the state of Pennsylvania. Again, he still has a lead. He's still maintaining that advantage as we see it right now. But again, the majority of the vote is coming from the urban counties, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, which won't count till tomorrow. We're still anticipating a lot of the votes to come in from there. So again, as we see right now, there's still a lot of vote left to be counted, if you will, in the states of Pennsylvania and other states as well. So let's go ahead and see if we can update you on the latest data here on this Thursday evening. Yeah, let's do that, shall we? Let's look at the numbers right now as we go down the board. In the overall electoral college votes, we'll get to that in a second, but you see right now the popular vote still leaning Joe Biden. He leads by about 2 percentage points, 73 million to 69 million votes for Joe Biden. So just about a 3.8 million vote count difference where that comparison is concerned. Electoral college, more of the same. It stays the same. 264 for Biden, 214 for Trump. We are waiting to see if any states will be called, but none at the moment. So right now it is Biden ahead of Trump, 264 to 214. Here's Erie County, Pennsylvania. Or rather, this is the state of Pennsylvania, I should say. State of Pennsylvania, Donald Trump holds a lead, 65,000 votes. It has been dwindling since yesterday when it was near 700,000. But again, Trump's still with the lead in the state of Pennsylvania. Here's Erie County right now. You see the votes have been counted. Joe Biden has overtaken the president by a slim margin, just about 1,300, if you will, electoral votes, rather, in Erie County. So right now, as you can see, Erie County is flipped blue for the moment. And if that's any indication, it's good news for Joe Biden. Because if you remember back in 2016, Donald Trump flipped Erie County. He won it by about 2,300 votes and ended up winning the state of Pennsylvania because of that by about half a percentage point. So not saying Erie County decides the state of Pennsylvania, but it has the last 3 elections. So as we can see here, Erie County is certainly a prevalent county in PA. It was listed as one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest, in the entire election. And Biden right now is outperforming Trump slightly in Erie County. Let's go to the swing states. We start with Arizona. We told you that we would be bringing you some updated information, and we continue to do that right now. You see Joe Biden's lead. It has decreased. It actually has decreased significantly. Right now, it's a 59,000 vote lead for Biden in the state of Arizona. What does that mean? Well, it means that Trump is gaining some ground. However, again, you see that blue check mark. We want to be clear and transparent with you. The Associated Press has already called Arizona for Joe Biden. We continue to monitor it because we know there are other outlets who have not called Arizona yet. So again, That's where we stand right now. Joe Biden leads in Arizona. About 91% of the vote has been counted in Arizona. So if the president is going to want to win re-election, he's going to have to either flip the state or he's going to have to figure out a way to get to 270 elsewhere. Here are some numbers coming out of Georgia right now. Again, the latest numbers out of Georgia show a close race, 3,500 vote lead for Joe Biden. Again, or rather for Donald Trump, but Joe Biden is closing the gap. This race ever so close. We don't know if it'll be called, but again, we're keeping an eye on it right now. Nevada and North Carolina continue to be the same. There hasn't been much new vote reported in either of those states, so we take a look at them again. Joe Biden up by 12,000 votes in Nevada. Donald Trump up by about 77,000 votes in North Carolina. So that right now is the information that we have for those two parties as we await additional results that will decide the presidency of the United States. Back with you here, Isaac Petcash on Erie News Now, live election stream. Again, we continue to bring you live coverage on this Thursday evening, 7:45 on the East Coast. If you can hardly believe this, in 15 minutes, polls will have closed in Erie 2 days ago. And that's where we are right now in the election. We're still awaiting some critical counties, some critical states to be called. We're still awaiting a lot of vote to be called as well. A lot of vote coming in places like Arizona, in places like Philadelphia. And we'll show those to you right now, actually. There it is. There is the look on the left at Arizona. They're counting votes. The look at Philadelphia. They're counting votes as well. We're just seeing at the moment really it's not a stalemate. The votes are being counted, but we're seeing a bit of a stall. Votes still coming in, but slowly, as we know. And we'll have to see whether or not the vote is enough, these networks believe, including the AP, to call another state. Because right now we don't know if that's going to be the case. So we'll have to see exactly what the deal is right now. And again, still a lot left to be decided at the moment in terms of what we are looking at on this Thursday evening. I apologize. I'm just looking at some social media here, looking at some news sites, just making sure that we're not missing anything for you, that we're giving you all the information that you need here on this Thursday. And again, it looks like those numbers so close, continuing to be close. We'll, of course, update you with information as we continue to get it across the evening here, 7:47 the time. We're going to go ahead and leave you for just a couple minutes on this shot here of the votes coming in. I'm going to try to see if we can grab our Ethan Kibbe to see if he can break down the latest information on the Electoral College and where that stands right now with the data. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can grab him right now as we're nearing 8 o'clock. So we'll see if we can grab him. We'll see if we can get a chance to chat with him for just 1 minute. If we can't, it's okay. We'll stay with you here and continue to bring you coverage. So we're going to go ahead and put this bug on the screen. Our election coverage will continue in just 1 moment. I am going to step aside for just 1 minute here and see if we can grab our Ethan Kibbe for some data breakdown. But we'll be back with you in just a minute or two. Hang tight. Alrighty, folks, we are back with you here, 7:50 on the East Coast, continuing our election coverage you can count on, and we were able to wrangle up Ethan Kibbe. He is busy, but we are getting him for just a couple of minutes here. Obviously, we're kind of tuckered out right now, but we're still waiting results here from the race. What do we know right now? The vote in Georgia is close. The vote in Pennsylvania is close. Give us some insight.
The vote's everywhere.
Right.
The vote everywhere is close. Well, that's about all we know, and yeah, I think that'll about do it for me. Yeah, that's all I can offer. No, obviously the vote everywhere is incredibly close.
Right.
And so we're looking at 4 big states here, Isaac. We're looking at Arizona.
Yep.
We're looking at Pennsylvania. We're looking at, or rather Nevada, I apologize. Nevada, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. Those are our big 4. Right now the president leads in Georgia, but barely. Last I checked, we were talking 0.3% in Georgia. So that is incredibly close, and we're continuing to keep an eye on those numbers tonight. Here in Pennsylvania, it's a slightly larger lead for the president, but barely. Again, and that race is tightening, the more mail-in ballots that get counted. And so it's a situation where we're just waiting on those mail-ins in those 2 states. If Joe Biden takes either one of those 2, the race is over. If he doesn't, then we're going to wait a while. And that's because North Carolina is waiting on votes, mail-in votes, that were postmarked on Election Day but don't arrive for a few days later. So that could really delay this. And also Nevada, which mailed out ballots to every single eligible voter. You didn't have to request one. Every registered voter got a mail-in ballot. So we don't know how many votes to expect there. That's what's gunking up the process, and we're waiting on Clark County, which is home of Las Vegas. So a lot of votes there. We only have about 3/4 of the Nevada vote in right now, and that's what's slowing all of this down.
So if I'm correct, and we heard from Clark County earlier, it sounds like they may not be releasing more info till Saturday. Is that
Saturday, correct? Yep. We will not know in Nevada until at least the weekend, maybe later. North Carolina, probably until next week. So for Joe Biden, your best case scenario is win Pennsylvania or win Georgia, and we're done. If President Trump hangs on in both of those states, now we're looking at 3, 4, 5 days, maybe more, before we know who wins this thing. And Isaac, here's as we both are quite aware here, even once we have a winner, we don't have a winner.
Right.
Because this is going to go to court. We're going to have recounts. Buckle up, everyone. Isaac, the problem here is that the American people have not clearly spoken. The American people have mumbled incoherently. And now we have to try to figure out what they want when the general public at large doesn't seem to know what it wants.
Question for you. You've been on this race for a very long time. You've been looking at the states. We know there are several lawsuits in several different states. What is the likelihood that we get recounts in multiple states? We already know that Wisconsin could certainly be of that category. Georgia might be one as well. Do we see multiple recounts?
I think we do see multiple recounts. The thing is that multiple recounts just means multiple recounts. We've never, ever seen a recount flip an election. So the recounts are, I don't want to say pointless, but it would be historic to say the least.
Sure.
If recounts actually changed anything. The only thing that might change things would be a court decision. And even then, we've never seen a court decision reverse a state's final count.
And just to be clear, the most we've ever really seen a recount change votes is a margin of error of about 300. So Joe Biden up 20,000 votes in Wisconsin. We don't know what's going to happen in Georgia, but again, it'll just take some time is what we're saying. It'll just take a little bit longer. I'm not asking you to see if you'll be able to say whether we'll call a state or not, but what's it looking like for the night? Do you think there'll be any state calls this evening, or are we waiting until tomorrow knowing what we know now?
I don't know.
It's a loaded question. I know.
It is. My gut tells me we're waiting until tomorrow, but that's purely a gut feel. There's nothing I'm basing that off of. My reason for believing that is that we know we're not going to know North Carolina. We know we are not going to know Nevada. That means it's us here in Pennsylvania and
Georgia.
It's Georgia. Here in Pennsylvania, most counties that haven't finished have stopped, like Allegheny County,
right?
The Pittsburgh area. There's enough votes there that I don't think we'd be able to declare a winner here without those votes. So I think Pennsylvania's off the table tonight, though don't quote me. Watch, I say that, and I'll hear in my ear that all of a sudden Pennsylvania's just been called. But I don't think we'll have enough in Pennsylvania tonight. That means we're down to Georgia, and I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
And the big question with Georgia now becomes, if Georgia ends up getting called, you will have some outlets that call the race and some that do not.
Right.
We know right now the AP and Fox News have called the state of Arizona for Joe Biden. That means that if both of those networks were to call Georgia for Joe Biden, that put him at 278, that'd be game over. Other networks have not called Arizona for Joe Biden, which means if they were to call that, it'd be 269 for the former vice president. So, again, right now, we're still up in limbo. Does that change any mentality of the stations that have called Arizona for Biden? That, again,
no.
Could we see, I guess my question is, could we see one station call Georgia, but others not, knowing that because of what they called earlier,
Georgia call,
that could call the race?
It could, and that's the important thing to note here, folks, is that because a network calls a race, that's not official.
Right.
None of this is official until December 8th, when states ratify and certify their results, and then we have electors voting on this on December 14th. That's what's important to bear in mind here, is that once a race is called, even once we have results turned in, there still is that process of declaring these are our results and signing off on that. So we may know a winner before then. We will, I think, fingers crossed, know a winner before then. But in any official sense, we won't. And so it's just this waiting game. Who knows?
And you wonder if and when a state will be called, whether it be tonight or tomorrow. There really are only two possibilities of that happening tonight, and it looks like we're going down to the wire in Georgia and in Pennsylvania. Ethan, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you taking a few minutes here.
Bet.
He's got to get ready for Erie News Now at 10 and 11 and all of our other newscasts that we continue along, because we have wall-to-wall election coverage on our channels here, as we're right now on Facebook Live with you here. A few minutes left to go in our coverage. We're going to sign off at about 8 o'clock tonight and let the evening crew take it from there. Here's what we know right now. We know at the moment that it's 264 for Joe Biden versus 213 for Donald Trump. That's what we know at the moment. But again, we have to continuously say we don't know at the moment where this vote is heading. We do know that, as we currently speak, the vote in places such as Georgia, such as Pennsylvania, are close. But what we don't know right now is we don't know when those states are going to be called. We want to be perfectly clear to all of you, as Ethan said. No matter what station you're watching, no matter what network you're paying attention to, if a race gets called, it is not official. So let's say, for example, the AP calls a state for Joe Biden tonight, which would get him over 270. That doesn't mean it's an official race. Again, December 8th is the day that everything's certified, signed, sealed, and delivered. And like we were mentioning, there could be some recounts when it comes to other states and other places and other votes coming in. So there's no guarantee that, the results will be official. Again, we have confidence in the states that we've projected with the Associated Press, but the votes are still coming in, so there's no officialness, if you will. That's not a word, but I made it a word, until we get the official results from the states. They certify all the ballots, and then that's the result. Whoever has over 270 votes is the president. Before we let you go tonight, we're going to give you all of the numbers one more time. We're going to give you the latest breaking numbers from what we have here on our election data source right before 8 o'clock. And we'll stay with you a couple of minutes past 8 o'clock just to make sure that you know everything in case, there's some updated numbers here before we let you go. So let's start on the popular vote for U.S. president. So right now you can see it's Joe Biden with the lead of about 4 million votes on Donald Trump. That part, of course, is important. You want to win the popular vote, but you can't win the presidency with it. So Joe Biden with the lead in the popular vote. Where it matters, though, is the Electoral College. And as we sit right now, 8 o'clock on the East Coast, it is 264 for Biden, 214 for Donald Trump. So that is the margin right now. Joe Biden with the lead. If you recall, this is the same numbers that we showed earlier this morning because nothing has been called statewide yet. We are waiting on potential state calls. Nothing has come. Like Ethan said, he's thinking it could be tomorrow. We don't know, though. We just don't know. That's been the motto of this election for the past few months. Okay, here's new information out of Pennsylvania. We just got these numbers coming in. So we're looking as you're looking here. The lead for Donald Trump 64,000 votes as we sit right now. 3.264 million to 3.2 million virtually on the dot. So Trump's lead is shrinking. However, he still maintains about a 64,000 vote lead with 94% of the vote in Pennsylvania. So that is something we do have to look at, something we do obviously want to make sure that we get you all the information on that. As we look at Erie County, here's Erie County right now. Again, this vote coming in very short while ago. It's Joe Biden with the lead in Erie County. It looks like he's going to pull off Erie County with a lead of about 1,300 votes in that county. So Biden is flipping Erie County blue. The question becomes, can he flip Pennsylvania blue? And that's what we're wondering right now. Here are the other swing states we're looking at. Arizona. Again, we've mentioned this several times. The AP has called Arizona for Joe Biden rather. However, because of the slim margin of votes, we are keeping an eye on it. And what we're seeing right now is that the lead is about 57,000 votes for Joe Biden in Arizona, with about 91% of the vote in that state. So we keep an eye on that. That's 11 electoral votes. The AP's given it to Joe Biden, but we are keeping an eye on it just to be safe here on Erie News Now. In Georgia, there's the margin. 3,500 votes right now. That's what we have. That's the latest numbers from our data source. Donald Trump with the lead of 3,500 votes. It is very close. We know that. Georgia could be in a recount mode right now after it gets called. We don't know if Georgia will get called, but we do know that it is very close as we sit right now. Again, Georgia, 3,500 votes coming down to the wire with 99% of the vote in. Here's the situation in Nevada. Nevada is a 12,000 vote lead for Joe Biden. We don't expect any more votes to come in until Saturday, so that number will most likely stay put until the weekend. And in North Carolina, the number is staying the same again. We don't expect any more numbers to come in until a while from now. So again, it's about an 80,000 vote lead for Donald Trump. That's where we stand at the current moment here as we continue our election coverage. We'll leave you tonight with the three races, Attorney General, Auditor General, and Treasurer that we're getting in right now that we do want to make sure we update you in. Take a look at this. Josh Shapiro ahead right now of Heather Heidelbaugh, 3.2 million to 3.05 million in that race. So it's the Democrat in the lead. Not the case in the Auditor General race. It's Timothy DeFore, 3.2 million to 2.885 million for Nida Ahmad, the Democrat. So the lead looking good there for Republicans. Here's the situation in the PA Treasurer. Stacey Garrity leads incumbent Joe Torsella, 3.1 million to 3.0 million votes for that race in the PA Treasurer spot right now. So again, we leave you with this. We leave you with what we know at the moment. The Electoral College map looks like this. It's Joe Biden in the lead. 264 to 214. That's what we are looking at right now on our election tracker. Here's the map for you right now. 264 for Biden, 214 for Trump. We have 4 critical swing states that have not been called. We don't know if they're going to be called tonight, but we are keeping an eye on them as we continue our election coverage here this evening. Again, we're going to make sure that we give you all the information that you need on this Thursday evening, on Erie News Now. It's 8:04 p.m. right now. We're going to leave you on Erie News Now Plus as well as our social media pages for the moment. Our Erie News Now evening team, though, is ready. They are ready to take over. They are going to continue to bring you breaking news and information. They are going to continue to give you the latest with this election. We don't stop here on Erie News Now until the election is called. We won't stop after that, but we will continue our election coverage until we hear a winner with the president. When that's going to happen, we don't know. We know Georgia is close. We know Pennsylvania is close. We know Nevada and Arizona are also close in votes being counted in many of those states. So right now we're going to sign off on ENN Plus and our social media pages. Erie News Now at 10 will start in just under 2 hours. But of course, if we hear anything, we'll break into programming here on this channel and we'll let you know exactly what's going down in the presidential race. So again, make sure to continue to keep online and up to date on air with our website, erienewsnow.com, and Erie News Now across our newscast. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll be continuing the presidential race. If the race has not been called, we'll bring you more wall-to-wall coverage on Friday, like we did today. We want to make sure that we continue to bring you information as much as we can, as long as we can, until we hear that presidential race called. So again, for now, we'll sign off 8:05 p.m. right now. We're waiting a lot of states. Our evening team will take care of you in case there's anything that's called right now. But for Erie News Now Plus and for our election coverage, my name's Isaac Petcash. We'll see you tomorrow morning, or we'll see you tonight if we do get a state call. Make sure to tune in. ErieNewsNow.com, ENN Plus, social media, and on the air on WICU and WSEE. Take care, everyone.